Good job.
Okay, that's good to hear. You can't see. I'm trying.
Who's our YouTube tonight?
We're good.
Is that you, Mackenzie? We're good. Welcome to the Centerville City Council meeting of April 16, 2019. Council is now in session. We welcome everyone that's in attendance, all family and friends and guests of Officer Hall, and we look forward to that swearing in. I'd like to start by making sure that we can conduct business. We can do still the swearing in, but we can't do all the voting without having a quorum present. So let's start in the end with Councilman Meekum.
Present.
Fillmore present.
Ivy present.
Ian's present.
Ian present.
You're tired, Mayor. We know. It's all right.
It's tax season just wrapped up, so.
Never sure if it's dealer left or right.
All five are present. They say it's because I'm tired because I'm a CPA and tax season just ended and I didn't get a lot of sleep. But I tell them, Meekum and McEwen, you got to change your names. What do you know, unless I'm going to start calling you by first names. They'd probably be okay with that as well, too. They're all five here, so, and I could take the ribbing as well, too. So let's start with the prayer thought from Council Member Ivy.
All right. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to meet together this evening as citizens of this wonderful community. We're grateful for the freedoms we enjoy, grateful for the moisture we've received, and for the spring weather that's coming upon us. We're grateful for the opportunity of self-government, and we pray for thy blessing upon us tonight, that we may have wisdom, that we may make good choices on behalf of the city. We're grateful for our first responders and pray for thy blessing upon them as they stand between us and danger and as they reach out in times of crisis. We appreciate them and pray for their safety and the safety of their families. We are mindful of those in Paris who are mourning at this time and of so many throughout the world who are in less favorable circumstances than we are. Wilt thou help us to know what we can do to reach out to them and help us to be grateful for the things that we enjoy. We love thee and we thank thee for our blessings and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. At this time, if you'd all rise with me and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is a time of our meeting where we have an open session where anyone may come up to either of these microphones and address anything that may be on their mind, other than items that we may have later on in the agenda that are to have a public hearing, which you could discuss those items at that time. So I'll open the open session, try and keep your comments, if you do come forward, to just a couple minutes. Introduce yourself and where you're from as well, too, for the record, if you would.
All right. My name is Jeff Baker. I'm a resident here of Centerville City. The topic I wanted to bring to your guys' attention is with the zoning code setbacks for accessory buildings on our property. I think it's currently at 8 feet for anything 200 square feet or greater or taller than 10 feet. And I think it used to be 3 to 5 feet. From my understanding, that got switched from a complaint on the agricultural side. And just recently in the last 6 to 12 months. But when it was reviewed and enforced, it got enforced on the residential side, but not on the agricultural side where the complaint, excuse me, came from. So with residential properties just being smaller, it makes it extremely hard for those of us that want to do an accessory building, a larger shed, or a small detached garage. And I've heard this is a common topic that comes up with Public Works, and so I'd like to see how it can be further addressed in future meetings with the City Council.
Thank you. Any responses at the present time?
Thank you very much for your comment. I've had several others and have been kind of working and talking with our planning commission about maybe trying to bring that back before us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any others for the open session at this time? If not, we'll close the open session and we will go to the business of the meeting. And number one on our business, of course, is something we're excited about, the swearing in of our new police officer, James Hall. He's got family and friends here, and we are thrilled for this. And Chief, can I turn it over to you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. Paul Child, I'm the Chief of Police here with Centerville City Police Department. And it's my honor and pleasure to introduce to you our latest officer, 7 Golf 19, otherwise known as Victor 19, James Hall. And so let me invite James up here, and just come on up here, James. The number is significant, 7 Golf 19, because back in July of 2018, we were authorized for a 19th officer, and we had one for a short period of time. He decided it wasn't the career choice for him, and then we had an officer die, and then we've had other complications, so it's been kind of a struggle in filling that position. So we now have that position filled, and we're confident that we've made a very good choice, and that James is going to stick around and be with us for a long time, so we're excited to have him. James was raised in Syracuse and went to Clearfield High. He joined the Marine Corps, served in the Marine Corps from 2011 to 2016. He was a corrections specialist and served as a combat marksman instructor. So we'd had no problem at all getting him qualified in our firearms course, so that's a good thing. He previously served with Grants Pass, Oregon PD for about a year, and then moved back home here to Utah. He went to Hill Air Force Base and their security forces for a period of time, and then we got him from his most recent job with Veterans Affairs, working as a police officer here in Salt Lake City. So we're really excited to have him. He's got with him his girlfriend Robin today, and his parents, 2 sisters, and grandparents, and so we welcome them as well. So, you know, out on the hall, I was talking to James a little bit about what he likes to do, and he says he likes to go golfing with his grandfather over there. Raise your hand, grandfather, there you go, who served 30 years in the Air Force, and but there was a little discussion about who got to pay for the golfing, and it seems like Grandpa was the one that always paid for that. James is an outdoorsy kind of guy, likes hunting and fishing, and we're real excited to have him. We had, during our process, our hiring process, the interview panel always kept coming back to his name and saying how impressed they were with him. So we're excited to have him. So Mackenzie, maybe if you could come over and we'll do the swearing in, and then the badge will be pinned on by James's girlfriend, Robin.
You're going to have to stand in the middle so that we have a solid record of you. Okay, if you'll raise your right arm to the square and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office with fidelity.
the duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay, Robin. going to say that deserves a kiss. All right, thank you, James. So James is going on duty when he's done, and he'll be working graveyards tonight. He'll be out there working till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, protecting the citizens of Centerville. So we're putting him right to work. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, James. We look forward to working with you. So. Moving to item number 2 on our agenda is the minutes review and acceptance. This is of the March 13th, 2019 Joint City Council Planning Commission minutes, the April 2nd, 2019 budget work session, and the City Council minutes. It looks like all of them. So do we have any comments or questions or changes?
I have one. Sorry, I should have been there.
Which set of minutes are you working from, Rob?
The first one, page 5, line 26. On line 26, where it says, council member Meekum wished to be silent and neutral on the matter. I don't know, I'm sure I certainly didn't say that. I don't know if that was somebody's interpretation, but I think that just needs to be taken off. I don't think that, I'm not very silent about anything. I was quite surprised.
So you want to sentence say, Councilmember McEwen responded that he wished to encourage residential development, period.
Right. Thank you.
Any other items on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with that one change.
Motion to approve the minutes is amended.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, item number 3 on the agenda is the summary action calendar. We have 2 items on the summary action calendar: approve commencement of the warranty period for Legacy Crossing storage and approve commencement of the warranty period for the Cove subdivision. Do we have any questions on those items, or if not, do we have a motion for approval of those summary action calendar items?
I'll move that we approve the summary action calendar.
Sorry, we have a
Second.
motion to approve. We have a second. Let's do a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Ivy.
Aye.
Which direction are we going?
To the right.
Aye.
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 Summary action calendar passes 5-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 4. This is a public hearing matter. This is on the final subdivision plat of Bears Cove subdivision, and the presentation from staff side. We have Corey Snyder here. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, as you indicated, this is a final subdivision plat. It's called Bears Cove, about 196 East Chase Lane. This has been through the Planning Commission at conceptual and preliminary as well as final. They have recommended approval to you. There's a few tie-up matters dealing with addressing, some verification at the lot width requirements at the setback. And they also have a transfer of property to adjoining neighbors to be resolved as part of the subdivision process, and they've agreed to make that transaction with the property owners to resolve some overlaps, perceived overlaps. And so I believe they started out at 14 lots. This is a cul-de-sac development. They went through a lot of engineering to talk about some drainage issues on the slope of the property, particularly to the east. They're going to provide some drainage easement to catch any excess water to keep some flooding from the new homes to be in place. And they also have redesigned the cul-de-sac slope to handle the drainage and push that drainage out into the roadway at Chase Lane and be captured into our stormwater system. So absent of a few tie-ups, the Planning Commission is recommending approval with the conditions that they listed in the report to you.
Questions for Corey?
Possibly after the public hearing.
Okay. If not any questions right now, there may be some later. Do we have an applicant here that would like to discuss this matter as well too? Please just introduce yourselves for our listening audience.
I'm the applicant, I'm Roy Barris, and my consultant is...
I'm Kyle Honeycutt.
Thank you for being here.
We,
any questions or not questions, but statement to make or anything?
The two items, one is just the addressing, we've got the engineer working on that, and the verification of the 60-foot dimension at the setback line. I know that we designed the subdivision that way, but we need to label it so that it's more visible. So those two minor changes will be easy to fix. We agree with staff's recommendations, and we appreciate staff being so easy to work with. I believe we're 2 lots less than what the code will allow. We're 1 lot, and we've now taken off a lot just to make the lots a little bit bigger. So some nice houses will fit on these properties.
I don't recall in the earlier discussion, shame on me, the 3 lots on Chase Lane being part of the subdivision. Why is that?
The 3 existing homes?
They're part of the subdivision in that those lots currently are over an acre. They're deep.
Yes, I understand that.
And because we're legally subdividing them off, they have to be included in the subdivision plat. But they're essentially just getting shorter backyards via this subdividing process.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time before we do a public hearing? Thank you.
So do you,
one more. Go ahead.
So do you have anything, since you reduced the number of lots, my recollection is there was one that originally was significantly less than the 1/4 acre?
We balanced those all out as part of that.
So is there anything less than a 1/4 acre now?
Yes, there are a number that are...
A couple. The ones in the corner are bigger than a 1/4 acre. The ones in that right where the bulb comes in is a little bit less. But they're all bigger than the code requires, significantly bigger than the code requires, by I think 2,000 square feet.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. Like I said, this is a public hearing matter, so that means that anything on this Bears Cove subdivision that the public is welcome to weigh in as well too. So I will now open it for public comment. So public hearing is now open. Always give people time to get over their nervousness. If no public comment, I will close the public hearing. So we don't have any responses to the public hearing from the applicant because there was none. So do we have further questions from council for either staff or the applicant?
Corey, just so that we have it on public record and everyone understands, this is actually 4 per acre, even though that they're not all 1/4 acre lots. This piece of property is zoned 4 per acre, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, just for the record, our RL zone no longer has a minimum lot size, so we don't have a 1/4 acre lot size. We have a gross density of no more than 4 units per acre, which will net, when you add roads to the system, something slightly smaller than a 1/4 acre lot.
Something smaller or something larger?
Something smaller, because by the time you take out the public road, you have lots that will average less than a 1/4 acre. And that's on average. I mean, you can have end of the lots, you can have estate lots, towards the corner, you can have smaller lots, but we don't have a minimum lot size. So yeah, you will net out just slightly less than quarter acre. And that slightly less is made up into the road that's dedicated.
So on a gross, it's a quarter acre.
Correct.
And, yeah.
Correct.
Out of curiosity, do you know why Commissioner Hunt recused himself from the vote?
He drew the plat.
Okay.
That's a good reason.
His fault.
I guess I shouldn't have appointed him. They shouldn't have approved him. Any other questions?
Well, this looks like this will be a high-quality spot for infill. There are a lot of different ways to do infill, and this is a very acceptable way for our community. So with that being said, we've had the public hearing and
We
closed
have,
it.
yes, we have. Yep,
Did
thanks
you
for
still
asking.
have additional questions, or should I go ahead and put the motion on the table?
I think you can do a motion.
All right. I move to approve the final subdivision plat for the Barris Cove subdivision located at approximately 196 East Chase Lane, based on the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion or debate on this? Now that we have a motion and second. If not, we will do a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Entz, going to the right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. Thank you for everyone and their work on it and getting this to where it was acceptable, and enjoy it. Thank you. Item number 5 on the agenda is an interlocal agreement with Farmington for improvements to Lund Lane. This resolution number 2019-06, and I believe, Lisa, you want to address this issue?
Yes, thank you. We have an interlocal agreement on the agenda for Lund Lane. As you know, our boundary line with Farmington runs right down the middle of Lund Lane, and about a month ago we approved an interlocal agreement agreeing to joint maintenance of that of Lund Lane. And so this interlocal is coming back to you to basically implement that prior interlocal for a cost share of a portion of the improvements that will be made to Lund Lane in the very near future, because a developer on the Farmington side is putting in a new development, and with that new development, Farmington is requiring them to put in most of the improvements on the Farmington side. So they're going to, by Farmington ordinance, the developer has to put in 14 feet of the roadway, and then Farmington will put in approximately the next 8.5 feet, which takes you to the center line of the road, and then Centerville will pay for the next 9.5 feet. So the idea is to have about 28 feet of pavement. These are just estimates because they sort of curve around, but the exhibits show the actual measurements and requirements. So this agreement is just saying that Farmington will be in charge of the project. They will pay the contractor and do all the bidding, and then when it's done and the improvements on the Centerville side are acceptable, we will pay them. And it's anticipated right now that those, without any change orders, that it will cost about $55,000, and the City Council has previously approved up to $60,000 for this project. So we're recommending approval of the resolution, adopting the interlocal, and authorizing the mayor to sign it.
Thank you. Any further questions? I know we've discussed this before, but to Lisa at this time.
Yeah, we almost put this on summary action, but it's pretty simple.
Lisa wanted to make sure you guys discussed it. So, or she got to present.
I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-06 for the interlocal agreement with Farmington over improvements to Lund Lane.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, let's start with, let's do a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Fillmore going to the right.
Aye.
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 That passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 6. This is a development agreement amendment with Target Corporation for Target Remodel. We have a representative from Target here. We also have Lisa that's talked with this representative. So Lisa, I know you put the information in our packet. Is there more that you want to say on it?
We're just requesting approval of a development agreement amendment for the Target remodel. Target is going to remodel their store over in the Marketplace Plaza. They own Lot 6 in the Marketplace, which is subject to a development agreement. We adopted that development agreement back in 1994 with Target. We've amended it 4 times. So because we were very strict in our provisions, we basically regulated what kind of building materials they could use and what kind of colors. So we started out with the Farmington Fieldstone and sort of grays, then we moved into the tan, then we got the orange of the Home Depot, and then we went with Wendy's, which was white and gray. So we're now at our 5th amendment, where Target would like to propose some new coloring schemes and new building materials. So really we're only amending the 2 sections. The red lines are not highlighted, but they're requesting that we add this language to the building materials. The last item, 9, exterior insulation and finish systems of IFAS and materials as more particularly set forth in Exhibit B, and also the colors in Exhibit B. So I've asked Mackenzie to put up the new Target remodel proposal. And with that, I'd probably turn the time over to Bryce Christensen from Kimley Horn, representing Target, to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the remodel. And then we'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
So Bryce, you want to come up? I'll let you introduce yourself, where you're from, what your hobbies are.
Good evening.
Number of kids, or dogs, or cats.
Bryce Christensen, I'm with Kimley Horn. Utah alumni, I love to ski. I sit in Colorado now. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm here on behalf of Target. Just want to thank Lisa for all her help in the back and forth on the amendment of the development agreement to this point, and just explain a little bit about what Target's looking to do. Target's had a goal the last few years to reinvest in their brick and mortar stores. They're reinvesting billions of dollars over the next 5 to 10 years, and 2019 included the Centerville store. So they're looking to reinvest in and upgrade their building here in Centerville, and they want to be here for the long term, and they're looking to modernize their space and their building. So you'll see a pretty big remodel going on inside the building, but as far as outside goes, they're looking to go back to this kind of gray tones. The Farmington stone on the front is going to remain, so the only change in materials to the building is going to be an IFAS material that will go on the front. It's a durable material, that red tile that won't degrade or fade or anything like that. Target's looking for some materials that are going to be sturdy and not have to be maintained very often. So I don't know if you have any questions specifically for me in regards to anything we're proposing, but I'm happy to answer those.
Now, I point out that we'll have a vote on considering this 5th amendment to development agreement. This is also an RDA matter for the RDA board about the Target remodel that we have in a session at the end with the RDA board. So Lisa, am I correct? Or did you want
Yes, that's correct. Under the plan area document, the RDA also has the authority to review architectural features, so we thought we'd be safe and bring that back to the RDA for consent. So my advice on that, if you're okay with this development agreement amendment, you could approve this subject to RDA consent.
And that would be the motion I'll make, that we approve it subject to the RDA consent.
Second.
As stated.
Have a motion, a second. Any further questions or discussion?
One question, I take it that there is no expansion of square footage?
That's correct. There is no expansion to square footage.
Do we still have to have as many handicap parking stalls?
I thought you got a brace now.
Yeah, but they're going to be painted with a new color.
Doesn't seem like anybody else has to have that many. I think you're being picked on.
And I'll give you a sneak preview, but Target's looking to do a drive-up program for the online thing. I met with Lisa earlier today, and so there'll be a drive-up program that Target's implementing to reserve a few stalls out there in the front for people to just come and pick up online orders, and associates will come bring online orders right out to your car if you need to. So
Cool.
yeah.
It's a whole new world.
It is a whole new world.
Well, on that note, I have seen a lot of businesses, Lowe's specifically, has started to put out parking spots for veterans that happen to be right next to the handicap spots. So if there's any consideration, I think it's a great thing that they're doing.
I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. If no further questions, let's vote, starting with Councilman Ince again, going to the right.
Aye.
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 That passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda. This is something that the council has requested to have a planning commission report. I would throw out to you, we're going to present it as we did list some items on the agenda. We will present that as it is, and then I would also throw out to the council at the end if you like that presentation of it, or if you would like to see it presented in another way in the future. So, Planning Commission report.
We have Corey.
Corey's here. You giving us the plan? Huh?
It's up to the council how it wants to do it. My understanding, this was a discussion between the Planning Commission chair and one of the council members just wanting a clear communication. We, at the Planning Commission level, just simply bullet point any decisions that you have made that they had recommended up to you so that they know the follow-through. So the anticipation here is just being able to list it on the agenda, and so you know what they've been discussing at each meeting. My hesitant is not wasting your time going through details unless you have questions, and you can certainly call at any time about questions on the commission. The other thing I would be cautionary is it's not really a debate whether the commission did a good job or not. It's the duties that they do. So it's your format. For us, we just list it on the agenda each time, and just if there's any questions of the commission, I answer them, but it's usually just a information item.
So basically what you've done here, Corey, you've listed from the last Planning Commission meeting the items you discussed.
Yeah, the plan was I would just go in on the agendas, each one, and just following up from their meetings, just list what my bullet
Where's
point
the
what they did.
Adventure Time vehicle sales?
Moab? No. It's in the North Industrial Business Park side in one of the suites. So it's catty corner roughly from the Public Works.
Great.
Catty corner dates me.
See, now I'm all up to speed and I didn't even have to read your minutes, so it's doing its job.
Good.
So do you like it done this way, or do you have some other ideas of how you'd like to see it happen?
I think this is great.
I don't think Corey has to come if he's not here anyway. Lisa or the city manager could give us a... Lisa could answer our questions.
You pay me the same, but I'll take your gracious offer.
Thank you, Corey, for doing that. Financial report. Marcus is here. Now, Marcus, you notice we trying a new thing. We don't have time frames listed on the side. So I guess you're still listening in on YouTube, though, to know when to come?
No, I just was planning to come by 7:45, so you're right on time. So, yeah.
It's astounding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Marcus, you're giving us a quarter report right through the end of
Correct.
March.
Yes.
Great, we're looking
Yep.
forward to it.
All right, so. All right, let's see. So, look at there we go. Page 1, we'll look at the cash position by fund. Overall, the big item that jumps out to me, there's the RDA property tax came in. So the RDA cash went from about 400,000 to 1.8 million. So all that revenue came in. Everything else seems, about standard. So nothing else really to go over on that cash position by fund. On the next page, the restricted cash. The water fund restricted cash increased quite a bit from last month, but that was just some developer money that came in for some city water projects that'll be done. But any questions about cash? I mean, the other restrictions are pretty standard as well. The theater reserve money, other cash deposits. The only due from is between the RDA fund and the general fund. And now that the property tax money came in, I'm sure there'll be discussions on how much to be paid back this year, how much next year type of thing. Now, if we go into the summary of the general fund, the year is 75% over. On the revenue side, overall, we're at 78%, so slightly ahead. The ones to watch are the property tax. Property tax revenue comes on line 2, 3, and 4 combined. The actual that we've received on all three of those is about 83,000 short of the budget for year end. So we brought in a little over 1.5 million. The budget's a little over 1.6 million. So I think we'll be able to hit that budget. But there still is about 83,000 to collect to be on target for the property tax.
What is left to come in?
They stagger it. We could 10 to 15,000, sometimes more. Each month we get property tax that comes in for people that paid late or that type of thing. So every month there is some amount of property tax that comes in.
So just out of curiosity, does anybody know how much came in last month?
Yeah, in March, we got 50,145, and then we got 6,600 on the motor vehicle, the fee in lieu. So yeah, we will get more. I looked at it in the last quarter of last fiscal year, we brought in about 73,000. So I think we'll be a little bit ahead of that this year. But that's what we brought in the last quarter of last fiscal year. The next revenue to watch is that sales tax revenue, and right now we're at 77%. So we still need to bring in about 913,000. In March, we brought in 320,000. So I think we'll be ahead of a budget a little bit on the sales tax. So we're looking okay there. The one to worry about a little bit is the line 14, the fines and forfeitures. I'm estimating we'll probably be about 80,000 short compared to budget by the end of the year, which a couple months ago we guessed about 100,000 short. So the last couple months have been improvement anyway. We've seen a little improvement on that. But overall, I mean, general fund revenues is at 78%. I mean, I think we'll be at 100% by year end. I mean, some a little high, some a little low, but I think overall we're doing pretty good. Now, any questions on revenues, general fund? Okay, so go into the expenditures. We're at 68% on the expenditures. The only departments, I mean, there's a few departments that are over the 75%, but line 24, emergency management, I mean, we'll do a budget amendment for that, but that was because of the prep fair. The revenue also came in high for that preparedness fair as well. Youth council is a little bit high. The public works is also a little bit high, well, at 76%, and that's just, the salaries are a little bit higher than budget. And then line 42, the building maintenance, and we have to amend the budget on that one as well. There's some major furnace repairs that had to be done, and so we're a little bit high there. But overall, the general fund, 68%, so we're well under budget on the expenditure side, so that's great. Now, if we go to the RDA fund, next page, the property tax money came in. There's a little over 1.4 million. We're under budget about 54,000, and Jake was looking into that, but I think it's something similar to last year, where the values of the properties in the project areas were a little bit less compared to the city as a whole. And last year, it made the city's sales tax, or city's property tax, a little bit higher, where the RDAs were a little bit lower. So we are about 54,000 less on that. And so we will have a budget amendment. We're transferring less, kind of the plan is anyway, to transfer less than budgeted out of the RDA fund for the bond payment, but a little more out of the general fund to cover the decrease in that property tax revenue. On the expenditure side, what's in there is just admin and insurance on line 5, and then below that, line 6 is transfers to the Utopia and the debt service fund. If we go to recreation fund, there's some baseball revenue coming in. The expenses are majority for wages and some program for the baseball programs. The RAP tax fund, we're right on target on the revenue at 76%. The miscellaneous, those are just interest. We've collected interest. And then the expenditures in the RAP tax fund, 85% of it gets transferred over to the park fund, 5% to Whitaker, and then 5% to the theater. Now, then the cemetery fund, and most of the revenue there is for perpetual care fees, and so that's ahead of budget. And then at year end, we'll analyze the transfer to make out of that fund. And any questions on those funds? Okay, then we go to the debt service fund. No activity again in March. There's payments that'll come out in April, so we'll see more in April on that one. And then the park fund, impact fees are low. The RAP tax is good, and then interest is high. So that overall, that's doing well, except for the impact fees are low. And then on the expenditure side, line 6, that's the community park expenditures, and then the park projects, line 8, are the Island View remodel. So not a lot of expenses, way under budget in that fund. Now on the transportation fund, the revenue is right on target for all areas. The Prop 1, Class C, just right on. So we're actually a little ahead, I guess, at 80% in that fund. And then the expenditures are the slurry seal project, and then some road projects and engineering costs. The Utopia, that's right on target. The money gets transferred in, and then it gets paid out to Utopia for the pledge payment. We go to the next page for the enterprise funds. And the water fund, that first one, the charges for service, that's the money that comes in from the developers, so it's tough to predict, but we're ahead of budget there. Impact fees are right on, a little bit ahead in the water fund. And our operating revenue, line 4, is right on target. It's 74%. The expenditures is at 73%, so the operating part is right on. Sanitation fund, same thing. I mean, we're at 74% on the revenue, 73% on the expenditures, so it's right where it should be. Then the drainage fund, same thing, it's 76% on the revenue. Expenditures are a little low, but I mean, there's some major projects that are coming that we'll need that money for. And then the telecom fund, I mean, it looks good as well. The revenue came in. The expenditures, I mean, there is a monthly bill. Sometimes we pay twice, 2 in 1 month. Sometimes we don't pay, just depending on the timing of the payables. So nothing out of the ordinary there. And the last page, we have the Whitaker Fund, and not a whole lot there. I mean, transfers in from the Rda Fund and the general fund makes up most of the revenue. And then the expenditures, there's some part-time wages, but there was about 11,000 related to that restoration project in March. So overall, I mean, things are looking good compared to budget. I mean, there are a few accounts that we're going to have to amend to be in target with, because by the end of the year, you just have to be, your expenditures can't be higher than your budget as a department level. So we'll just have to go through and do a budget amendment to make sure we're within that state code. But any questions about the March financials or any accounts you want to look into in more detail or anything like that?
Looks good.
Okay.
Marcus, it looks like they don't. So
Okay.
thank you for that presentation.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
For all you do. Are you taking off tonight too? Or not you? Okay.
We sent down a couple other guys this year to the St. George Conference. So
Jake just said he might be going down with you, so.
yeah, I wanted to go, but I couldn't make it.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for the report.
All right.
All right. Item 9 on the agenda. This is Mayor's report. A couple things that I want to bring up. Some time ago, I presented a proposed sketch or architect rendering of the Fruit Heights situation and the land that they had up there, the around 25 acres that has been designated for cemetery space. And it told you that Councilman Ince and myself and Bruce Cox had a meeting with Brandon Green and their cemetery committee chairperson. I kept following up with Brandon Green, and that was scheduled to go to their council to see if they even had any interest in it on March 19th. And I called him the day after, Brandon Green, and he said that it didn't even get to council because the mayor was not sure if the residents wanted to do it or not, and he wanted to get more feel. And so my task that I've made to myself is to tie down Mayor Pullman either tomorrow at a COG meeting. I'd like to do it in person, or I'll catch him up with him Tuesday at our waste management meeting, or I'll just make an appointment and get with him to see what his thinking is and what is in his mind. So I don't remember if you probably remember that presentation I made. So that's where that sits. Any further questions for me on that? I continue to work on potential other areas. I told you that I'd worked on, this is a tough project in getting potential donation of land, somebody that may be in a state situation where it would be beneficial to them. Have one, but albeit a long shot possibility there. But I keep getting emails and calls from this, and with a recent situation we had in our city, I have another person that wants to help out as well too along these lines. So any input that I can get from you there would be appreciated. would you like me to continue to pursue and follow up with Mayor Pullman on this matter?
I personally would rather try to get one in our own city. As I kind of put out there, nobody was really helped on Fruit Heights. I mean, they said if we want to go to Fruit Heights, we'll go there, or we'll go to Bountiful. They didn't feel like we needed to be part of that. They'd still rather see that we try and get something, which I've told them is hard, but they'd like, I'd rather have something in our own city. And even if we could have done something with Farmington on the border, but they felt like if they were going to go to Fruit Heights, they'd hate to see us be putting our resources up there, because they may choose to go somewhere else, and we're wasting our resource. We're saying to them, we're going to use our resources in Fruit Heights. That's where you need to go. And so I haven't gotten great feedback from it. I don't know how the others have got.
My thing on it is it's an expensive proposal to buy the land, and as we talked about before, and you know, there's always that debate, should we be in the cemetery business or not? I think the majority of our residents would like to see it happen, and obviously the Fruit Heights one was cost efficient and effective. I know that there's one longtime resident that I had helping me look for land, and he hadn't given me permission to mention his name, that was of that feeling too, but realizing after him beating on doors of a half a dozen people, he realizes that it might be a viable option as well too. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to make the inquiry, you know.
I'm great with that. I'm just saying that I think, I don't know if it's so viable for, I mean, people want the cemetery, but I don't know that they care whether we have a cemetery in Fruit Heights. If that's the best we've got to offer, I'm not sure they wouldn't just as soon.
Go pay a non-resident fee
Yeah,
somewhere
just
else.
go pay a non-resident fee somewhere, and then get
Rather
to
than
choose
kind
where
of bind us to, that's where you go if
Right.
you're not in the city.
Right.
I mean, I agree with that general hesitation, definitely.
I think at the end of the day, that's what it'll come down to. And we're not, there would be some co-investment, but the long-term benefit to residents would be of significant consequence. But the cost of doing something internally will be 10 times.
Well, I'm in agreement with you there.
So it's either that or nothing, is the way I see it.
Well, you may end up with the practicalities that it's just too expensive to be buried in Centerville going forward, and when we're done, we're done, and it's just perpetual care from that point forward. I don't know that we're going to acquire land anywhere in the city that's going to be cost effective for the city to acquire for that purpose, especially when you're looking over a 20, 30-year horizon to get enough people interred there to where it would make sense. So.
Appreciate your input. Thanks. Next item I had Whitaker Museum. I do have a couple of appointees for your approval tonight. One of them is from inside Centerville, one's from outside of Centerville. This is our only committee that allows non-Centerville people to serve on it, and the reason being is it's so unique and specific in nature. I had a few concerns. I realize that as a council, we're the ones that vote and allocate money. However, you do have voting of funds that taxpayers have made of how it's going to be used there and ideas. And so I don't know if any of you have any concerns with that. It wouldn't eliminate outside Centerville people being on the board. They'd just be ex officio members where they would give all their input. They just wouldn't be voting members of the board. That would be reserved for Centerville residents. Because in theory right now, I mean, I wouldn't bring appointments to you where we have 7 non-Centerville people on the board, but somebody could. So just was the thought I had, just concern I had. I don't know if there's any feelings or input on that as well.
I think they have such a very minimal budget that I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
I would almost think that we ought to have a proposal that 2/3 need to be either residents or direct descendants. I don't mind having some outside, you know, if there are people who have input and things to offer. But I think the preponderance, if it's not written in already, should be 2/3 residents or direct descendants.
There's a thought.
Yeah, the only reason that outside Centerville was a consideration was because of the expertise. We do have a direct descendant on the board now who doesn't live in Centerville, but we did have someone with amazing expertise who was willing to serve, and that's always a great thing when you get someone who knows a lot.
Right, if they're willing, I don't think it jeopardizes the integrity of it to have somebody from the outside in there.
Okay. And with that said, I will, in part of my report, propose to you 3 appointees then. One is to the Landmark Commission, and at least 3 of you, I think, heard from this person. They're excited. And this is Tyler Moss to the Landmark Commission. And then to the Whitaker Board, James Morgan and Robin Jensen. I've talked with both of them. And we did have 2 spots available on the Whitaker Board. And as a courtesy, I don't know if it was kind of late, I sent the email out today to you, but I talked with both the director and the chair of that board, and the names that, with these names, and so of course it's up to council approval as well too. But those are the 3 appointees that I am proposing, 1 to the Landmarks Commission and 2 to the Whitaker Museum Board.
So my only question is, do they know what they're getting into? I worry a little about the museum because that's my job. But I want to make sure that we're getting people who have been there, who understand the museum, and who are trying to further its cause. And I don't know, I did hear from Mr. Moss, but I did not discuss the Landmarks Commission with him for much detail.
He's not on the Landmarks Commission. Oh, the Landmarks Commission, yeah. You were bouncing back and forth.
Sorry, those are the 2. I just want to make sure they know what they're getting into, and they don't say, oh, I was hoping it was something different.
Well, I spoke with Tyler at length. He seems pretty eager to serve in any capacity. He wants to throw his hat in to help out. I mean, he mentioned specifically he was interested in the Planning Commission, and I told him at the time I didn't know if there were any openings, but I would let the mayor know. And I'd say his enthusiasm will carry him through, I hope. I did warn him that a lot of these committees do have time commitments that are hard to predict, so.
Whenever I interview, and many of these people I sit down with in person, some of them on the phone, but I explained to the best of my knowledge what each committee does and the time commitment to it. That said, it could fluctuate, just like Councilman McEwen said.
Mika McEwen itself.
So I believe they do know what they're getting into. Each person, when I ask them to serve, I believe they do know. So.
Okay. Great.
So those are the appointees. Do we have a motion?
Recommend that we support the appointees the mayor's identified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That is it for my part of the mayor's report. So, Brent, you have anything on the city manager's report?
I do. I have a number of things. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So first off, I'm in my 4th week, so this is pretty exciting. I've met with a lot of people, staff, residents, council, and it's been really great to get to know Centerville. And there's a lot of passion here, a lot of pride, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. So just a number of things. So the next budget work session, when would you like to schedule it? I'd like to schedule possibly 2 more, in all honesty. One, 5:30 again at the next city council meeting, the first meeting in May. But honestly, I'd like to schedule a work session that we don't have another meeting following it, so we can really go into an in-depth discussion on some of these items. I feel like we get cut short each time. And so we've got a lot of good. We've discussed a lot, but I would like to finalize a few things that give us some clear direction as staff on where we're going. So as right now, we can just schedule the first meeting in May at 5:30. Once again, if we can make that, that'd be great.
You'd like the second one to be where we don't have a back-to-back meeting, though?
I would, if possible.
We have an extra Tuesday this month.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, three weeks to our next council meeting.
Well, do we want to try and schedule April 30th for?
We've got a foundation meeting.
Community foundation at 5:30.
Okay.
Could do after that, though.
We can do it after that.
How long do those usually go?
An hour?
Efficient?
An hour, yeah.
Hey.
Do you want to do, or do you want to do one then that night? At 6:45, 7 o'clock, is that what we're saying?
I would be willing.
Works for me.
Okay. Well, let's tentatively plan April 30th then, Mackenzie, if we can get that scheduled and posted. That'd be great.
And what time? What time?
Do you need a buffer? Do you want 6:30 to, or
I'd
do you?
go 6:45.
6:45.
6:45.
Yeah.
6:45. And then the second item is.
Are we still talking the second too then at 5:30? Or is the 7th, sorry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's close, that's just a week later. Does that give them enough time to respond?
Yes, we should be fine.
Second item?
Second item is, so Lisa and I have had a number of conversations about Island View Park and our funding mechanism. We still would like to, we'd like to have another follow-up meeting. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to follow-up meeting to really discuss. We have our concerns as far as not having our numbers for even phase one ahead of us just yet, and we're talking about going out for bonding. That's a tough sell. I know we've got a tight timeline, but I don't know, Lisa, do you want to go into detail a little bit more about what we just discussed?
Yeah, I just have a few concerns waiting until May 7th, well, which is our public hearing on the bonds. It seems to me that it might be helpful to have a work session where we just talk about what is the plan for Island View Park? Do we have the numbers for phase one even? Do we know what we want for phase two? What are our options? Do we really want to go for the 1.6 million? Because actually the RAP tax funding won't support 1.6 million. You might only get 1.3, which in my opinion changes, there's different facts, and also finding out how much would it be if you just want to go with phase one. What are our options under phase one with the lease purchase? But I just think there's a lot of different moving parts, and I don't want to wait too late in the game. In talking with Brant, I think we sort of feel the same, that it might be helpful to have that, or even if it's on the 7th, but I feel like it would be helpful to have a discussion where you don't have to make a decision that night, where we can just talk about priorities for parks and what you really want to do with Island View.
That sounds great.
Can we do that as part of the meeting we just scheduled?
On the 30th?
I hesitate. I would like to leave that for just other budgetary items. I think that's a much larger discussion. If you want to, we can. I have no issues with that.
I think the other issue is a lot of those questions would be answered by the design firm.
Correct.
And so we would have to ask them when they would be ready to be able to answer those questions.
That's fair.
And just some feedback, if you were just talking to the design firm, one of the things that as I talk about bonding with the residents, there's a number of them who are saying we should really look at a reduction in scope. They'd rather look at that, and that's actually where that discussion came about how we haven't had a recession. The individual's like, well, you're banking on this RAP tax, which is consumption based, and can you guys look at a reduction in potentially what you're doing in your phase one, or even breaking your phase one into a 1.5 sort of thing. But recognizing we have the grant we have to work with, that's something for consideration that I think is going to come up pretty significantly with the public when we get closer to the bonding.
Agree 100%. So a couple items we're waiting on. I reached out to Bruce to try and find out the results of the park survey to find out level of service. What do they, I don't know the details of that survey, but that graduate student was doing that survey to find out what are residents looking for in the parks. And I think it would be helpful to find out, is Island View really a priority? If it isn't, then make sure we use the RAB tax the best way that we possibly can. I'm not saying Island View is not, I just would like to get some input from residents and see what that survey has to say. And then second, I have reached out to Zines to get some other numbers with the real property lease. Elisa, Jake, and myself will go over those numbers, and we'll also present. I'll probably send that to you in an email for just informational, just this is another consideration, that we don't have to bond. And the real property lease is a little different. It's not tied to the RAB tax. It's not dependent on that. It's the collateral. The property is the collateral, not the RAB tax. It's just another way of going about doing it. I'm not pushing one way or the other, but I just want to make sure you have your options.
So I think we do need a meeting on it before the 7th.
Yep.
Well, so then, I mean, I agree with you about wanting to stay focused, but since the 30th would be open-ended timeline, we don't have another meeting we can hit, then if we have to, if that's time sensitive and we're talking about before May 7th, which is the next Tuesday,
Right.
I don't see us being able to find another night.
So Mackenzie, can we do those two items on April 30th? Mm-hmm.
The other is the 23rd, so you have, that's next week. You know, on the 23rd, you could start earlier, but you don't have a community foundation.
Brent's not here next week.
Oh.
So next week I'll be at UCMA.
And that's even a tighter timeline with the designers.
Yeah, true, okay.
So we'll plan on April 30th this time. And then a reminder about the joint meeting with the Planning Commission on April 24th at 7 p.m. and the discussions on the South Main Street corridor. Other than that, I don't have anything further. If you have questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. We do have 15 more minutes before we can open our RDA meeting, just so you know.
Did it say 8:30?
It says 8:30.
Oh, no.
Well, I think we should break with precedence and go ahead and motion to adjourn and then into the RDA. We've never done that ahead of time.
I like that idea too, except I want to make sure that we hear from Bill on the emergency preparedness, the shakeout. Anything else we need to know? I mean, that's coming up.
The shakeout is on.
Yep, this Thursday. So.
The shakeout is on Thursday. The resident included drill will be on Saturday. On Thursday, each of the 5 quadrants of the city leader will report to the Emergency Operations Center subsequent to the shake time, which is 10:30, so at about 10:45. The city will then forward that to the county and to the state. The city offices, both here and on the west side of the freeway, will go through a normal full drop, cover, hold earthquake drill, followed by a building evacuation and accounting of all heads. The Saturday drill, there will be a number of damage points identified through the city by the Parks Department. They will not be known to residents ahead of time. Block captains are tasked with locating those, reporting them through their area coordinators to their district coordinators into the city. Each individual district is encouraged to have more than the 2 that the city will place in their area that they put out themselves. Those events will then be reported in to measure our ability to locate significant damage points within the city and identify what the response would be. We have about 6,000 Code Red brochures which have been passed out through the city at this point. All of the districts were represented at the meeting on Saturday morning at the beginning of the month. Wow. I think we're set to have a constructive drill that will test our ability to at least ask for help for ourselves if we need it.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Any questions for him on that? Thanks, Bill, for all you're doing on that and all the help from the employees of the city and residents of the city and all that's going on there. Any other things or items to bring up before I asked for motion to I guess leave the city council and go to an RDA meeting that's starting at 8:30.
Motion to adjourn the city council.
I was just going to say, I wonder if if it would be helpful at all to spend the 10 minutes going back to anything on the budget that maybe we were cut short on time.
I'd say at this, not having Jake here, I'd rather wait for Jake to be here. Unless you have some other questions that I could address, but 10 minutes isn't really enough time to.
Then I'll second George's motion.
Okay.
No, never mind. I was going to ask a question, but.
Go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
All right, do we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Council meeting adjourned.
Unbelievable.